All right, next up, our second group is going to come to speak about peaking and hydrogen production. We have Boris Homburger, Abdallah Abojoud, Kyle Brumback, Michael Martin, Oscar Espinoza, and Richard Pearson. Mike?
Talk about a tough act to follow.
How's everyone doing this afternoon?
Hi, okay, we're Matt Technologies. My name's Richard.
My name's Oscar.
My name's Boris.
Abdallah.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're here to talk to you about flexible cogeneration from nuclear. Next slide, please.
So Richard, can you please tell us what our problem is or what the challenge is for the future?
So looking at the pie chart here, it shows you the entire energy consumption. I think this is for the US, but it's probably translatable for various places around the world. It shows you that actually only 40% of energy generation is from for electricity. Other things like transportation, industrial heating, and residential heating actually use mainly fossil fuel-based energy source. So really, to decarbonize our world, we need to consider other things, transportation being one of the major ones. Looking at the graph over here, this is a Californian example showing what will happen to the grid when more renewable energy gets integrated over the next 10 years. As you can see, throughout the day, there's less dependence on baseload energy resources during the day when solar is running at optimal. So there'll be less capability for nuclear, and that's a bad thing because the only other thing that can provide baseload energy is fossil fuels. We personally don't think that's acceptable, and we want to do something about that. So, Oscar, how are we going to upend this?
So what if we told you that we don't only have to sell electricity to the grid? We can divert the electricity and the energy from our nuclear power plants when solar and renewables are penetrating the market, and we could divert it to create other commodities. Next slide, please. These commodities and the energy can be used for heat production, for desalination, and for example, creating hydrogen from an electrolysis production system. We can then use this excess energy that the nuclear plant isn't using to create these commodities and sell them to other markets, such as the transportation hydrogen market for producing ammonia and for natural gas substitutes, depending on what the market demand is at the time.
So it's important to note here that we really think renewable technologies are great. However, they can't go it alone. So what we want to do here is promote clean with clean. So our first idea is to actually just pop down the road to a power station at Diablo Canyon, where it was just looking to be shut down for a number of reasons. Renewable integration, public perception issues, and a number of political issues. Our initiatives to revive the interest in Diablo Canyon. So we predict the market demand for hydrogen, this is for transport, will increase dramatically over the next 10 years in California. Following this, we've actually done an analysis of how much Diablo Canyon could provide in terms of the hydrogen, to match hydrogen demand. By increasing a stepwise approach where we improve the number of units over the years in following demand, we can actually match a significant amount of this demand, thus providing clean hydrogen for a clean transport sector. Next slide, please. So not only have we proven Diablo Canyon as a feasible opportunity, we've also identified a unique strategy for our business development. We plan to redesign, appropriate, site and oversee commissioning of our sites here, California and hydrogen, but elsewhere perhaps other things. We plan to sell the design to the vendor and take commission for our partnership with the vendor, and this is how we're going to make money. From there on, we'll provide expert consulting in market analysis, forecasting and ongoing support, and helping them improve and us to improve at the same time. We will thereon take 10% of plant profits here from hydrogen sales, other places maybe from desalination sales, and thus we have a vested interest in providing them with the best consulting we can so that they can do well and that we can do well too. So the profit margins you can see here, we've done the calculations and this is, the margins are pretty significant in the projected sales of hydrogen. This is per kilogram of hydrogen produced from Diablo Canyon. And this is our revenue here per kilogram. And when you scale that up, it looks nice. So the vendor will make a significant profit and will have a return on investment within 5 years, if not sooner. And we also note that although forecast for hydrogen market looks great over the next 10 years, there's a chance that we may have to sell hydrogen elsewhere. And of course, the ammonia market mentioned earlier, and also the natural gas pipelines may also provide a secondary stream of revenue for us. So, where do we go next?
So our long-term strategy. So after we implement our first cogeneration system within Diablo Canyon, we'll move into other nuclear plants that are at risk to create a more flexible revenue system for them, as well for us. And from those revenues, around 2030, we intend to design these cogeneration systems within advanced reactors for more efficiency use and energy use. Because there will be more advanced thermochemical processing for these cogeneration systems. And then for the 2050 market, planning to expand into the global market as well. Thank you. Any questions?
Is this on? Great presentation, guys. What do you think the biggest risk is in getting your idea to market? Biggest risks?
So definitely our ambition, that is very long term, so to say, is to go after natural gas as a heating medium. And so definitely it would be very longly pronounced low natural gas prices. Or that the fact it's combined both. Or the fact that the hydrogen market wouldn't actually continue to increase in needs, in which case, of course, we would not really have a market.
If hydrogen transportation doesn't pick up as much as we'd hope to, we tend to look into other avenues, like we mentioned in the earlier slides. So we can use hydrogen for ammonia production, which is currently 4% of total energy consumed in the world, which is a really substantial market. Sorry. And we can look into desalination heat production as well.
Thanks.
While we're on this slide, what do you think out of those, I guess, 3 options, hydrogen, desal, heat production, what do you think would be your first, the first one you'd move into, and why?
So we did our case study on hydrogen because we think that's currently the most easier to implement and that has the most potential, especially in the Californian market. So the way we picture this is that we'd tailor our solution to whatever is most needed in the market at the state. So right now in California, the projections for hydrogen are quite optimistic, and we have every reason to believe that they'll be promising in the future. In markets in the Midwest, for instance, we might push for different alternatives, where nuclear power plants are also at risk right now.
And also, we intend to use hydrogen because it helps our vision of a company using clean energy for other clean energy sources. And so right now you can get hydrogen from steam reformation from natural gas, so it's not really clean energy per se, and people don't necessarily know that. So we want to help the positive image of nuclear to help other markets, such as the clean energy market for hydrogen.
And just a final point to add to that is that I mentioned clean with clean earlier. The important thing here is that we want to approach nuclear power from a completely new angle and change the perception.
So are there any technology challenges? Is this technology ready to go?
So actually right now you can use electrolysis, which is what we set up for, because it's the simplest. We can do it now. As you've seen, our plan is going really, really far, so we really plan to use, once they come on the market, high temperature reactors and using thermochemical cycles to produce hydrogen, which would give a really strong competitive edge for nuclear. But so yes, you can build electrolysis cells right now with known technology. There are improvements that are coming really, really often from national labs and so on. And there are similar plants that have been built so far in Europe for the same reason, to stabilize the grid. So far I counted 2. One was actually commissioned like last year in October, so it's quite new.
Other than the fact that Diablo's been in the news lately, why did you pick Diablo? Because I cannot imagine building a desal plant or an H2 plant at that facility.
So yeah, Diablo Canyon actually already has a desalination plant, as somebody pointed out already. Ideally, what we'd like to do is produce the hydrogen, outside of the exclusion zone of the reactor to reduce regulatory risks. There's no reason why we couldn't do that in terms of electrolysis per se. Because we are in California, we thought this would be like a really great case study, especially due to the big public perception right now and the big debate that's happening currently around Diablo Canyon. But of course, if we dig in deeper and find that there's another plant more suitable, like the ones at risk in the Midwest, that might make more sense as our first market priority.
So who's the competition?
So the current competition right now would be the current electrical companies. So the problem is none of them has looked at this market, or if they have, they haven't specified that they looked at this market. So we feel like we are bringing the idea as a fresh new startup. The competition, of course, like I said, those companies or just anybody who wants to get into the hydrogen market or just the alternative nuclear commodities market. So, like I said, utilities, California, if they want to do it as a state, or the Midwest.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Then I won. I warned them that I would take the mic out of their hands.